This is the regularly scheduled May 20th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Examiners for Land Surveyors. My name is Michael Schulz. I am the Executive Director of the program. And, well, I guess we don't need a statement of necessity anymore since we're in person. Welcome back, everybody. And, Mr. Chairman, if we could go ahead and get a call to order.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. I would like to call this meeting to order. On May 20th of 2021, again, just put it on microphone. I want to call this meeting to order.
Thank you, sir. I will now call the roll. Mr. Lingerfeld.
Present.
Mr. Kaufman.
Here.
Mr. Dillahay.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Thank you, gentlemen. We now would go to adopt the agenda.
I would like to take the privilege here of requesting, with permission of the other members of the board here, a little leverage on the agenda. I know we do have a printed agenda itemized, but a lot of times things tend to get out of order through necessity. I would like the leverage to possibly move some items around on the agenda, not changing the content so much, but just leverage to change the order, either in terms of necessity or just time efficiency.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Would you call the roll, please, for the vote?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lingerfeld. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next item is review and approve the February 2021 minutes.
I trust that all the members of the board here have had an opportunity to review those minutes from the February 2021 meeting as printed and delivered by email. If anybody has need for changes, revisions, anything like that, now's the time to speak. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Chair, I had a couple of revisions. They were submitted to Mr. Schultz, and he has duly made those on the ones that will be voted on. And I make a motion that we approve them.
All right, as amended.
As amended, yes, sir.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on that, on the minutes as amended? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lingerfeld.
Aye.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we move into the education report, I'd just like to take 1 second to recognize one of our guests, Assistant Commissioner Alex Martin, has joined us today. And Assistant Commissioner, would you like to say anything?
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you, Michael. I just want to say it's great to be here this morning. Certainly good to see our board members in person. Nice change from the last year. We're excited to have you all back. For those of you who don't know me, I've been on the job about 6 months. It's a very exciting time for the division of reg boards. A lot going on and a lot of work to do. But just wanted to pop in this morning to say thank you for what you all do. I know the governor certainly appreciates your service. We appreciate the volunteer efforts of our appointees and our board members as important partners. And I just want to say it's great to be here this morning, and I look forward to attending and learning, as it's my first opportunity to attend one of these meetings in person as well. So thank you for what you all do, and great to be here.
Alex, thank you for your time. Certainly your presence here this morning. It is quite refreshing to be back in person, so to speak. I think it's been roughly a year, I guess we could call it, since we've had the opportunity to be here in person back in Nashville. Always wonderful. The board administration is always so welcoming and helps us out in every way. We certainly appreciate that again, and especially with you being here with us today. It means a lot to us, certainly the administration and in our efforts here. So thank you again for being here. Mr. Schultz, I'd like to take the liberty here real quick. I'd like to afford Mr. Lingerfeld an opportunity here just to kind of make a couple notes about his time here on the board. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that in some ways it's somewhat of a sad day that this will be Mr. Lingerfeld's last meeting with us as an appointed board member. He's been here for, I think, 12 years, 2 full terms, has served religiously on this board, is certainly a cornerstone, a foothold, and a foundation to not only this board, but personally, in my aspects, I've certainly taken him on as somewhat of a mentor. He took me under his wing and has guided me for, I guess I'm on 7-8 years now. And his wisdom, his guidance it's just remarkable. The wealth of knowledge that he has, the experience that he's had, is all guided towards the betterment of the profession. serving this board and ultimately protecting the public with the rules and regulations that we're afforded to create and enforce. So I certainly want to afford Tim the as much time as he would like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope I can get through this. I have a little brief paragraph to read. I'd like to thank the professional surveyors in Tennessee for having confidence in me to serve on this board for 12 years. In doing so, I have traveled 27,000 miles, counting today, attending 46 meetings in person, plus 3 virtual meetings. I'm proud to say I never missed a meeting or was never late. I've served under 3 governors and 6 executive directors. During my tenure, hundreds of professional surveyors have become licensed. Prior to attending my first board meeting, I attended the 2009 NCEES meeting. Our board had not been in attendance for several years prior. I paid my own way because I understood the importance of our board being involved with NCEES. Since that time, I have brought notoriety to our state for surveying and am the current Southern Zone Vice President serving on the NCEES Board of Directors. I can truly say that I have professional relationships with professional surveyors in every state and United States territories. As you can see, I am very passionate about my profession. The future brings many obstacles to our profession. Among these are deregulation of licensure, combining of surveying and engineering boards, new technologies interacting with surveying, and the need to include areas of surveying licensure defined in the NCEES model law for surveying to protect the public. With the continued decrease in licensees, expanding the avenues for potential licensure is paramount. I have honored my commitment to always make whatever I get involved in better than when I came with this board and our profession. I'll greatly miss being on this board. So as I drive home today, I will be brokenhearted that I could not continue to serve on the Tennessee board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. No doubt. Yes. So we have a presentation here?
Like to, I think this feels like a good moment.
I think it would be.
Mr. Lingerfeld would like to present you with a certificate of your commemorating your time here on the board from the governor's office, as well as a letter from the governor thanking you for your service on this board.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Michael, for that presentation. Certainly thank the governor of the board and all the administration there as well. And especially thank you again to Tim Lingerfeld for his time. I think we can all feel the passion in all the words that he said there. I don't think it begins to touch on his contributions that he has made to the surveyors of this state, the public of this state, and certainly the board. It's remarkable. It really is. And his presence will be missed, but we will move on. We certainly have a worthy, I don't know if you call it replacement, but another person to fill in his shoes, who I'm sure will do a fine job. Like all of us who just started, it takes a while to get running on this board, and I certainly take it personally to adopt every new member, of which we have another one here, which I'll get to in just a minute. But certainly Tim's absence to my side here, as it has been at every meeting, will certainly be missed. So thank you again, Tim. Jackie, did you want to say anything?
I just concur with everything you said, and know we're going to miss him a great deal. He's been a big asset to me, not only to the board, but to me as we've moved through several years here together. So going to miss you, Tim.
Yes, absolutely. I did allude to our new public member here, Mr. Kevin Martin. I certainly don't want to miss the opportunity to introduce you to the public here, both that are with us today and on live stream, I guess it is, telephone, whatever means. Certainly welcome to you. We certainly look forward to your contributions. If you'd like an opportunity real quick to introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your brief history, and then we'll get on with business.
All right, briefly, I'll just say, you guys hear me all right? Just say a little bit about myself. My name's Kevin Martin. I was education. I've got a degree in chemical engineering. I did that for about 20 years in industry and focused primarily on polymers. I've flipped houses for the last few years, and so I think I'm probably a good fit for this board. We face issues flipping houses that relate to surveying. hopefully not every time, but it comes up almost every time. It seems like in some way or another. So I've got a a vested interest in what goes on with surveying. So I'm happy to serve here. I feel honored, and hopefully I'll do the best I can, and I can help out.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. We certainly appreciate your time and efforts here and look forward to your contributions.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Michael, if we're good there, I think we'll move on back to the business on the agenda. I see we've got the education report listed next.
Yes, sir, that is correct. And education report starts on page 8 of your meeting materials.
Anything we need to review or make decisions on as far as the education report goes today?
I believe we just need your approval on the course providers listed
Okay,
and the renewals.
I know we have been getting some course reviews by email from Morgan. She's been very diligent with sending those to us for our reviews, getting them back, answering questions, corresponding with the prospective provider. The ones that we have in front of us, are these for us to review today? If they are, I'd kind of like to get the material associated with them as opposed to just a title, if that's possible. Generally speaking, Morgan sends us the application, all the materials that go with it, all those materials. Okay.
Hey, Michael, it's Morgan. Can I speak?
Yes, please, Morgan.
Okay, perfect. So these courses are the ones that have already been approved through you guys. So all we need is just a vote to actually do the finalized approval for those courses for the initial, and those are renewals.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Morgan. As I was reviewing them just by title here, they look familiar. I thought I'd seen these before, so yeah, that does make sense. So obviously these have been submitted to the board members for their personal review, replied back to Morgan with approval, and so now we just need to go through the formality of an actual board vote for the approval of these.
I move we approve the courses as listed.
Thank you, Jackie. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second for approval as listed. Is there any further discussion on either of them as a group or individual? All right, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please, for approval?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lingerfeld.
Aye.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I think did you mention that we were going to have a provider call in today for discussion on an education matter? Is that right?
That was my understanding, yes, that we would have one or possibly two potential providers calling in today.
Okay. Are they on the line of any kind? And now might be a time. Okay. A potential provider from New Mexico State University.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Ahmed Al-Aksher, professor from New Mexico State University.
Turn that up at all? I can't. It's difficult to hear.
Sir, we're having trouble hearing you. Could you maybe speak more directly into your microphone?
This is Ahmed Al-Aksher from New Mexico State University.
Excellent. Yes, welcome. Thank you for attending virtually with us today by telephone. I understand that you've submitted an application for PDH approval. Is that correct?
Yes,
College course. I'm sorry. It's for college course approval.
yes.
Okay. Very good. Is there a presentation of some sort that you want to make? I know that I personally have had the opportunity to review it. Ms. Morgan had sent us the materials. Just wanted to see if you wanted to add to that or make a presentation of some sort.
Well, I can go over the flow chart for our program, if that's something the board would like to see.
That may be something. I don't know if you're able to virtually show us or screenshot or something. I don't know if we have that capability.
If you can provide me with a screen, can you hear me? Just making sure.
We can hear you. Yes, it's a little tough, but yes.
Okay. Well, if you can provide me with a way to do a screenshot, then I'll be happy to do that.
Screen, the ability to
I
share the
usually do-
screen.
Let me. I
Can't
think
do it.
someone has. I don't know
Okay.
for this particular.
Morgan, you should be able to allow for screen share. Or Laura, Laura, you're the host. You should be able to permit the screen share. You'll have to make Mr.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
yes, he should be able to screen share right now if he is on a computer.
I am on a computer. Just allow me a few seconds so I can get it to work.
You should have a little button at the bottom of the screen that says share.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Allow me a second here so I can see where. Yes. Can you see my screen now?
I think we do. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is our program page. We have a 4-year degree program. It's actually designed in two different ways, so students can come and start the program at NMSU, and I'm going to show you here that this is one of the ways that transfer students can join. So any student can transfer a certain amount of courses, like what we see here. They can come from a 2-year college with like the general education courses, the math, physics courses, and then from basic drafting, the claim surveying, and the computer programming course, the intro courses. And then at NMSU, students can start taking the upper division courses. We do have a community college called DACC, and they also provide the first or the freshman and the sophomore years. So we have this nice combination of having transfer students or students who can start at the beginning. I'd like to focus on the main surveying courses we have. So the main surveying courses that we have, and again, when I say we have, we can accept transfer or have the courses here at MSU. So plane surveying, that's the basic surveying introduction to plane surveying course. And it has a pre-calc requirement. And then the main core courses, I can divide them into different parts. So we have few boundary classes, surveying 292, that's the public land surveying system, 312 and 464. These are the three main legal principles boundary surveying courses. We have also a geodetic path or a geodetic cluster, 361 geodesy and 461 GPS. The prerequisite for the 361, for example, is Calc 1 and plane surveying. And then we also have what we can call modern technologies and photogrammetry, which are the 285 and the 485. So we teach aerial photogrammetry, we teach some of the UAV technologies, LiDAR, and so on. Another path is the spatial data adjustment. Students take 361 and then an upper division class. And the prerequisites here are Calc 1, plane surveying, statistics, and then they take Calc 2 or linear algebra to go to 451. With that, we also have some other supporting courses like ethics and professionalism, that's surveying 401. We have 2 GIS courses. One of them is an upper division course, and a student can transfer an introduction or a lower level GIS course. Engineering economy is another supporting course. B-Law is another supporting course. And then we have some math classes, of course, Calc 1 and Calc 2. And then students can take an upper division class. Here we have linear algebra, but we are in the process of allowing like Calc 3 or upper division math courses. And of course, besides the other general education, beyond wider world, that brings the total credit to 120. Right now, we have an enrollment of about 42 to 45 students. Again, it varies based on the semester, based on those who are enrolled in the classes. A healthy enrollment. Our program has some nice awards. We got the NCEES award 2019, 2017. We got also another award. We are partnering with different industries, with different professional surveyors. Here we have a consulting surveying company that came and 2019 and gave a demo on a mobile mapping. We also are in touch with the NMPS, the New Mexico Professional Surveyors, and we are partnering with the DACC, that's the 2-year school project here. And we do have some activities, as you see through the pictures here, some of our students, some of the activities we are doing at NMSU. I would like also to show the main program objectives. We are in the process of accrediting our program. So our program is a new program. It's based on the phased out surveying engineering program that was phased out in 2016. 2018, we started our geomatics program. Last November, we went through the ABIT accreditation visit and things were clear, so we didn't have any issues. But again, the official stamp for the accreditation will be in August. We are seeking the ANSAC accreditation. I don't see we will have any issues with that. So here are our program objectives, student outcomes based on the ANSAC and ABIT accreditation. We have some description measurements for describing or for assessing the students. And then there are 2 faculty in the program. I'm the program coordinator, and Dr. Worm is and other faculty in the program. This is the course, the courses here. If there are any questions about the course content or the description of any of the courses, I would be happy to answer.
Great, thank you. Very thorough explanation there and well presented. Thank you for your time there. I did have one quick question. You addressed accreditation, obviously important for any program, collegiate program. Which accreditation board is it that you're trying to get accredited from?
So we are going with ABIT under the ANSAC, Applied and Natural Science Accreditation Commission.
Excellent. And second question, I think maybe it might have scrolled through real quick. What is the total number of credit hours that a graduate needs in order to graduate?
So a graduate will need 120 credit hours to graduate.
Excellent. And
48 of these credit hours, yes, 48 has to be 300 or above, what we call upper division courses.
Okay. And last question, how many of those courses are strictly related to boundary?
We have, if we go back here, we have 1, 2, 3. So we have the public land surveying system, that's 3-credit course. And then we have a first class in legal principles, that's another 3-credit course. And then we have a third course, which is 464. That's the second or the third, if you would like to put it. So we have in total 9 credit hours. I can go back here over the course description for 292. That's the public land surveying system. And then the other one is the 312. That's the first legal principle course. Again, we call them 1 and 2, but you can think about them as 3 different courses. And then we have the 464, which is the advanced or the second. So that is in total 3. Of course, in senior projects, some students will prefer doing like this year or this semester, they did a boundary survey, but last year they did a UAV survey. So senior project is another place where students can perform boundary survey. That's in total 9 credits out of the 120.
Excellent, thank you. I know I said that was my last question, but I just thought of one more. Does the program in general, does it emphasize licensure of the students? And if so, at what point does it encourage the students to take the NCEES exams, specifically the FS?
Okay, so the program, yes, the program does emphasize the professional licensure. We have a ethics and professionalism course where we teach the students about, of course, ethics, but also the different rules, laws to get licensed, the New Mexico Board of Licensure requirement. We do emphasize it in this course. And one of them, to go back to your question, so we introduced the FS, the PS, all of these requirements, and I'm just trying to find it here, is the students must take the fundamental of surveying examination prior to graduation. So that's one of the graduation requirements. Wow. Of course, we relaxed this requirement last semester due to the COVID, but all students have to take the FS. They don't have to pass it. We don't force them to pass it, but they do have to take it before graduation.
Outstanding. I do appreciate the encouragement of, or actually the mandate that the students have to take the FS exam. I know that is that's a strong principle I think you should stand by, and we appreciate you doing that. Great presentation there. I think if I understood correctly, you're really just looking for the board's acknowledgement of the 4-year degree program specifically towards applicants that are applying under the Category 1 application, which is the 4-year degree surveying. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Is there any other questions from members of the board here or admin? Mr. Martin?
I mean, I have one question. This is Kevin Martin. I saw in the email that, and I just want to clarify, is ABET, is that accreditation, is that a renewal, or would that be for the first time accreditation?
So this is a new program that was launched in 2018. So our accreditation will be a new accreditation in the ANSAC.
Okay.
But we did have the engineering accreditation for a phased out surveying engineering program. But that already expired. So let's say we want to start from the engineering accreditation to the ANSAC accreditation.
Okay.
You good? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, outstanding. Any other questions from members of the board here? All right. Mr. Ahmed, we certainly appreciate your time. Excellent presentation, wealth of information there, and I'll tell you, the program looks outstanding. We certainly appreciate your time here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I guess we need I guess we'll take a vote, I guess, for official approval and recognition of the program.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would like to make that motion that we approve this program. I've reviewed it, and it's an outstanding program.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
All right. So a motion and a second. Any final discussion or questions on that? All right. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please, on that motion?
Sir, Mr. Lingerfeld.
Aye.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. With that, it is approved. Again, thank you to Mr. Ahmed for his time and efforts there on an outstanding program. Still on the education report, is there other items to discuss?
Is there anyone from the McKissick company with us today?
Yes, this is Jackie Vincent. Hi.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Jackie Vincent from the McKissick Company is with us today. Ms. Vincent?
Yes, Vincent, is that correct? Do I have that correct? Vincent, there it is. Thank you. We appreciate your time being online with us today. Is there a brief presentation you'd like to make?
I did not prepare anything.
Okay, questions for us?
Ms. Vincent, this is Michael Schultz. I'm the executive director. The McKissick Company is proposing a number of online courses that would be submitted to the state of Tennessee for approval. Ms. Vincent, would you care to elaborate on the types of courses that you would be proposing and how you would go about administrating those?
Yes, certainly. So we have two different delivery methods. We have the standard online course, and then we also offer correspondence. Both are pretty similar. So with an online course, the student would create their account with a unique username and password, and they would register and log into their dashboard. The courses are available at any time, as these are self-paced courses, so they study on their own. And basically, when they're ready to go and take their course, which they can start and stop at any time, they would just log in. It's text on glass, so they would read through the material. Typically, at the end of each chapter, there is a short quiz, and then at the end of the course, there's a summative final exam. And then once they successfully passed all the quizzes and exam and gone through all the material, they would be able to receive their completion certificate, which would show directly on their dashboard. With correspondence, it's similar. They would still create their username and password, register for the course, and go to their dashboard. However, the difference with this is once they open their course, they're able to download the full PDF of the course material. So instead of paging through each one, they would be able to download that so they could read offline if they choose. So after they've completed the going through the material, they would still log back in to take that summative final exam online. And then once they've passed that, their course would be marked completed and they would receive their completion certificate.
Thank you, Ms. Vincent. Mr. Chairman, the question here is all of the McKissick online proposals were denied. So the question is, what is the board looking for in terms of online education?
Excellent. Okay. Ms. Vincent, we certainly appreciate you calling in today. We're going to try and answer your questions as best we can. I guess the first question I have offhand is during these courses, both the online and the correspondence that are being offered, is there opportunity for the student to interact with questions, comments, clarifications of any kind? Is there any kind of interaction between student and instructor, whether virtual, in person, on telephone, either way?
Yes, so we do include the instructor's email address. There's actually a link directly from their from their course that they could reach out to the instructor if necessary. We find that in most cases for online courses, it's not needed, but they do have access to that instructor resource.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ms. Vincent, this is Tim Lingerfeld. When we recrafted our continuing education rules, one of the greatest problems that we had when those were recrafted was online courses. And I think if you read our rules do not allow online courses. They do allow correspondence courses and several other variations. The concern was that there were many online courses at the time that this rule was changed, that an individual could virtually go online, pay a fee, take a test, and be done for the online courses. And that is not the spirit and intent of the continuing education for the professional. So basically, our continuing education rule primarily is structured around seat time. as many other professions do as well. So, the correspondence course needs to have a greater interaction than if needed. In the online course, I cannot personally recommend the online courses that you submitted.
Thank you, Tim.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from members of the board here? Jackie, anything? Kevin? Okay. All right. Does that clarify for you the reason that the requested courses were not approved?
Yes, it does. Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. It's certainly in your purview to resubmit. If you want to reformulate those courses, you can always resubmit.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Any other questions we can help you with?
I don't believe so, no.
All right. We certainly thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Michael.
Sorry, this is Maria. I was reviewing the rules and trying to find language that explicitly prohibits the online courses. And I don't see that language. So, can you kind of clarify just for me what you all are referring to?
Let me reverse your statement. Did you find language that specifically allowed?
Well, if there's no prohibition, then I can get there legally that allows it. So,
I understand.
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay. If you all wanted to go that route,
But I mean, that's the intent. That was our intent because I was involved in crafting that, and that was our intent. Our initial intent was to be completely seat time, but we deviated from that because of other things. But if you look at the vast majority of everything that's there, it involves two things: seat time and interaction. And their courses did not involve what I felt like was appropriate interaction with the professional.
yeah, I was just going to say with, the coronavirus this past year, a lot of the boards had to go to virtual only. So if it's something that you all wanted to provide that discretion and switch to online, I think we can get there legally. So I just wanted to point that out.
Point. Thank you. Yeah, you did bring up the coronavirus. And we had brought this topic up at a prior meeting. And the way it came about was I had several registrants contact me personally asking if the board was going to consider leniency, a waiver, some adjustment towards the required PDHs for the upcoming renewal, which is at the end of this year, I do believe. And I believe at the last virtual meeting we had, I brought the topic up. There was no real further discussion. Basically, the answer was we haven't discussed it. Has there been any thought or advancement on that since the last meeting?
Yes. So I needed to check the executive order last meeting, but so the executive order allows for the board's complete discretion to waive up until May 31st of this month. So that order has continued to be extended, month by month. I don't know if this will be the last month, but as of now, you all have the authority to approve, it's very broad language. So if you wanted to approve online, if you wanted to waive, if you wanted to reduce, you all have that discretion. You could do it as a blanket vote of what you all would like to see done, or you could do it on an individual basis. So.
Thoughts of that from members of the board here?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that, the renewal started this period January the 1st of 2020. So there's a couple months there that was available. We still have time from this point forward, for the registrants to still get theirs. And as we all know, sitting here in front of these folks, the vast majority of surveyors in the state of Tennessee typically wait until October or November to get their stuff anyway, and we're not there yet. So I'm not of a tone for any added forgiveness. I mean, I understand it's a terrible situation. It's been a challenging year, so forth and so on. But by and large, surveyors have the nature of being a little bit slow about getting their stuff done. I wish they were more proficient uniformly, but that's not the case.
I understand. My observations have been similar. So, excellent. Jackie, any thoughts there? No thoughts. Okay. All right. I tend to agree with Tim. That was kind of my initial thought here. We are still somewhat early in the year. There's plenty of time until the next renewal period to where those PDHs have to be acquired. I guess I would ask for if there were specific individuals who have extenuating circumstances that they could certainly, make application for leniency of some sort on an individual basis. But I think in terms of, I'm not inclined to issue a blanket, request for changes of any kind. So that's kind of where I'm going to stand at that. Any thoughts there, Michael? Or
Actually, I would like to say that the administration is supportive of online learning when and if the public is not being harmed by the online learning. So I would like to just keep that on record and make sure that is part of your thought process, that this administration does and would like to see a little bit broader avenue for learning.
Okay. All right. Back to the agenda here. I think our next item was the new provider request. I think we've addressed that already, unless there's additional. We're good. Okay, good. All right. Legal report, I guess, is up next. I believe all the board members were distributed copies of the legal report for their review prior. And I know typically in prior meetings, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't read the whole report. But I think part of the idea of distributing it early was to allow us opportunity beforehand. I'll certainly leave it at your discretion as to whether you would like to read the report in full, or maybe there's a reason to certainly entertain it. But perhaps just the caption and a quick review would be sufficient.
All right. Yeah, I'll do my best. I know that some are easier to summarize than other, kind of depending on how technical it is, but I'll do my best to summarize.
Thank you.
Okay, number 1 is 20200947761. The complainant takes issue with a survey that respondent completed back in 2001. Complainant states that their neighbor had a more recent survey completed by a different surveyor on the neighbor's property, and the boundary lines between them didn't seem to match respondent's 2001 survey. Respondent states that the distances were in line with their survey, and the only difference was a slight difference in bearings. Respondent exerted a lot of time and effort in trying to explain this to the complainant and digging up old records and communications and files, and was actually really surprised by this complaint because he felt that they felt that they had responded to complainant and explained everything sufficiently. An expert review was conducted of this matter, and the expert concludes there are no violations regarding the survey and how it was conducted. The expert notes that respondent tried to explain that the newer survey had a bearing basis of state grid and not magnetic, and states the issue complainant has is a common misunderstanding among the general public. Council recommends dismissal.
Excellent. Thank you for the review. My quick thoughts on it. I'm certainly encouraged at the respondent's efforts to communicate with the complaint, try to explain documentation, made the full effort is what it appears to be. So that's encouraging. I did kind of raise my eyebrow when I saw the original survey was 20 years ago plus.
Yes.
That was interesting. But I'm certainly encouraged that the expert reviewer found no violations based on the standards as they exist. And then I agree. I have that same conversation with many clients about bearing differences and trying to explain grid and magnetic and different sources of the datums. Very common discussion, so I could somewhat relate to it as I was reading through and understood. But again, with the expert reviewer finding no violations, I tend to agree with the recommendations of staff to dismiss. I'd certainly entertain comments from other members of the board here.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? All right, hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ingerfeld. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, approval for dismissal from the board's decision here. All right, if we can move on to item number 2, please.
Sure. 2021-012-891. Complainant alleges there is a discrepancy in a recorded plat of a survey conducted by respondent. Complainant states the plat that respondent sent to them was correct in showing a lot 8 and a lot 9, but the recorded plat just shows both lots numbered as lot 8. This was just an error, scriber's error, as the respondent referred to it. And after this complaint was filed, the complainant confirmed the issue has been resolved and asked to rescind the complaint. Respondent also immediately connected with the complainant before this complaint was filed. I think complainant just didn't feel like it was taken care of fast enough. So there's no evidence of any violations here, and council recommends dismissal.
Excellent. Thank you. Any thoughts here?
I move we accept the recommendation for dismissal.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lingerfeld. Mr. Kaufman. Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Approved. Item number 3, please.
2021-009-651. Complainant purchased a property from a seller and takes issue with the survey that the respondent conducted for the seller. Complainant alleges they were told there was no legal description for the land that they were purchasing. This was prior to the survey, of course, and a survey was needed, so the seller had the survey conducted. Complainant purchased 2.7 acres from the seller, but was told about 24 hours prior to closing that the survey came out to 2.5 acres instead of the 2.7 acres they were promised they were purchasing. Specifically, the complainant took issue with a statement that the respondent used in the survey and the deed, which is, quote, "This survey is subject to adjacent landowners agreeing to property lines as called for in the survey," end quote. And then complainant also claims the respondent and their neighbor were colluding together to take away that property from them. Respondent had gone over everything with their client, the seller, before completing the survey, and informed the seller that the physical evidence on the property that is called for in the deed does not match the measurements in the deed. When respondent began the survey, the seller informed them that there had been a boundary line dispute on the east boundary, and that is when the markers on that side were set. Respondent explained they would need a copy of the final decision on the dispute, but never received any information from the seller, and it's not mentioned in any of the current deeds or tax cards. Respondent explains they put the note concerning adjoining landowners on the survey to protect themselves and the public. Respondent felt if they simply told their client there was a problem, then nothing would be done about it, and it may not be communicated to the attorneys or the buyers or the appropriate parties. Respondent does not understand why the deed was written and the complainant actually closed on the property and purchased it if this was such a problem for them. Respondent provided all the field notes, coordinates, surveys, and deeds used in this matter. An expert review was conducted. The expert finds no violations regarding the survey and how it was conducted, and states the respondent properly notified the parties who were to use the survey information to close on the sale of the property, noting the survey was done for the seller, not the complainant. Further, the expert states it was appropriate to state that the survey was subject to adjoining landowners agreeing to property lines as called for in the survey, and it is unfortunate that no agreement was made between the landowners. Council feels this is more of an issue between the complainant and the seller, and therefore council recommends dismissal.
I found it interesting in the summary here, noting that the survey was done for the seller and not the complainant. I thought that was interesting in this situation. But so the expert reviewer found no violations. I'm encouraged to find that the expert reviewer also stated that they properly notified the parties who are to use the survey information. I think that's important. A lot of times that communication is an issue, which causes, eventually a lot of times that will cause complaints. So thorough communication is always important in surveys, especially like this. Any other members of the board have comments on this? It's a very thorough summary. Thank you.
Jay, I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it common for a requirement that the adjoining landowners sign off on the survey? And that was, to make it official, didn't they basically state that here, that that was a requirement?
The way I understood it here, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the idea was basically a common line between the two parties that was in dispute.
So essentially, let's get them together so they agree on it. So one doesn't say one thing and then later the other acts blindsided by that. Is that the?
I think they were attempting a boundary line agreement.
So that's kind of what I thought. When I read it, I gathered that in a lot of cases, if it's clear cut, you probably wouldn't have this requirement. But in cases where there's some question, you want the various parties that have a.
I think the idea was acknowledgement of acceptance of the common line, which doesn't
Okay.
sound like it happened eventually. Tim?
Well, typically, if you and I join properties and our legal descriptions had a bearing distance and some type of corner monumentation on it, then a surveyor for either of us could pretty well determine that line. In this particular case, my deed says it adjoins by you, and your deed says it adjoins by me. So there's no way for the surveyor to define where that line is. So it becomes necessary, as Chairman said, to have a boundary line agreement.
Gotcha.
So what the surveyor has done is he said, based on the vagueness of the descriptions that are around this property, the only way that I can memorialize my survey is if these adjoiners agree to where these lines are. And if they don't, then they can change them or whatever. But there needs to be agreements before my survey is memorialized for a document to be transferred for the property. And that's what they're trying to say here. And it's very common.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I think it's actually a good thing.
Yep. I think it is very common, especially in more rural areas.
Yeah.
Old properties, old deeds, things like that, pretty common. But
I think it would be good practice for the surveyor, though, if he coordinated or took the liberty to get the agreement in place before releasing his survey. I don't know that just saying that this survey is subject to an agreement in the future, and this doesn't sound kosher to me.
Yeah. Well, point is that based on the rules that we're able to that we're enforcing here, the expert reviewer found no violations.
Right.
And again, I do commend the surveyor there based on the summary here, the information, the communication, the attempt. Sounds like he did more than his share. So I'm more inclined to agree with the board's decision for dismissal, but certainly want to entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the recommendation for dismissal.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lingerfeld. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, as approved. Move on to item number 4, please.
2021-023-221. Complainant alleges, quote, shoddy work by the respondent, claiming they did not match the bearings and distances found in their deed. Complainant originally hired the respondent's firm in March 2018 to divide a lot they had purchased jointly with a neighbor. Upon completion of the survey, complainant decided to then have respondent's firm locate 2 missing pins on adjoining land that disappeared over the last 40 years, since it was last surveyed in 1980 when the complainant purchased it. The property had previously surveyed in 1978 when it was a 170-acre farm, and then it was subdivided. So after the pins were set by respondent and his firm, the complainant called to complain that something did not look right and the measurements were allegedly off. Respondent told complainant they would need to survey the entire property unless complainant could show them an existing undisputed monument on each end of the property line to be established before the survey was completed. So after that occurred, respondent's firm performed deed research and office calculations to determine the location of the common boundary line. Respondent provided the pertinent information to counsel, which is very extensive and very technical regarding these calculations and research, which led to their decision on where to set the pins. Complainant came to the firm and told respondent they were upset about the distances and the locations of certain markers set. Respondent explained to complainant that the pins were set at a location that could be defended in court if necessary, and provided further technical detail about the deed angles and the resulting angle being within 1 degree of the deed angle. Complainant ended up, of course, paying for this work and later wanted a refund or a reimbursement. An expert review is conducted, and the expert concludes that complainant seems to have a misunderstanding because they saw calls that differ from their deed. Respondent's survey states that the north basis was reconciled with a specific recorded subdivision plat. The expert found no violations by respondent and further notes that distances almost always differ to some degree when compared to old deeds, very old deeds. Council recommends dismissal.
Thank you. Especially on the old deeds, almost always. I mean, 99% of the times, the distances are going to differ. A lot of times clients don't understand that. They expect that, by golly, what's on my deed is what I own. How come it's different? And also, it sounds like he used a different basis of bearings here, had to reconcile to a subdivision plat. Again, very common questions. Why are my bearings different than what the deed? So absolutely. So I certainly would like to commend the respondent for the education to the complainant, or his client, I should say, as to why those were. I am encouraged that the expert reviewer did not find any violations on the survey as well. So I tend to agree with the recommendation for dismissal. We'll certainly hear comments from other members of the board here.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, second?
A second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin, for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lingerfeld.
Aye.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Move on to item number 5. Mr. Lingenfeld, real
Mr.
quick.
Chairman, may I interrupt you just one moment
Yes,
on
sir.
this? I need to recuse myself from this complaint.
Understood. All right, Mr. Lingenfeld will recuse himself from item number 5.
2021-026551. Complainant hired respondent to complete a survey in result of a boundary line dispute with their neighbor. Complainant lives in a duplex and they own their side, and the neighbor, of course, owns their side of the property. Complainant needed the respondent to mark the property separated by the common wall of the duplex. Complainant takes issue with the outcome of the survey and the line that was staked, alleging that the respondent placed stakes that don't line up and that go through their kitchen and living room. So complainant basically filed this complaint to contest the survey despite being advised to hire a real estate attorney to handle the situation. Respondent explained in detail how they performed the work and provided the deed, recorded subdivision plat, prior survey, plot points showing found points, calculated points, and stakeout points, sketch of duplex with measurements, and 2 pictures showing the stake set. Complainant argued that the line runs through their kitchen and living room, so respondent tried to come back out a couple times and help the complainant understand that this was not the case. Respondent feels that if the complainant would have simply walked to the rear of the lot, instead of standing on their porch or in their kitchen, they would have seen the straight line of stakes instead of looking from an angle through their window. So an expert review is conducted and no violations were found, and council recommends dismissal.
Excellent. Thank
Move we dismiss.
you. The motion, is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Martin with the second. Further discussion? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Dillahay.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Not having Mr. Lingerfeld there, it threw off my rhythm.
Well done. Great job on legal report, by the way.
you.
Excellent summaries. Well done. We certainly appreciate all your time and effort. I know that can be extensive. All right. Well, Mr. Director, it's the director's report.
All right. Thank you, sir. You all received a copy of the most recent financial statement for this program. We are currently operating in a deficit. However, this is a renewal year, so as renewals start coming in towards the end of the year, we'll see that number tick up.
Common occurrence.
Yeah,
That's what I figured.
yeah, biannual common occurrence.
Yep.
But I'm happy to entertain any questions if there are any. Okay. The next item I had was online learning. I feel like we had kind of covered the discussion on that already.
Yes.
So we can move on to the active license count, which was requested. We're at approximately 1,100. We have seen a slight uptick from the previous announced number of 1077. So we're right at 1,100 now. The expired grace, because everyone renews at the same time, the expired grace is rolled into that. So I don't have a way to extrapolate or set aside. It's all one number. The next, I believe, since the last time we met, there was the TAPS conference down in Murfreesboro. Both Assistant Commissioner Martin and I had a chance to come down go down to Murfreesboro and conduct a little program outreach. However, you all were participants in there. Is there anything you would like to report about the TAPS conference?
Well, I think considering the circumstances that TAPS was able to do both the in-person and virtual, so it was kind of a blend there. I think it was pulled off very well considering the circumstances. TAPS, its organization, its board members did a phenomenal job logistically of making that happen, and I certainly want to commend them for that. Prior year, they were able to pull it off just before all the COVID restrictions had hit. So for 2 years in a row, they've been very successful considering the challenges ahead of them that we've all faced. So first of all, kudos to the organization for being able to pull that off. Definitely want to thank the two of y'all for showing up, making your presentations to those that were present. It's important. I firmly believe, and I'm going to go forward with this, that it's important that the board itself and the administration make face, so to speak, to the registrants. In today's virtual world, literally the entire womb to tomb, so to speak, can be done online, virtual, without ever making face of anyone. That includes board members, from application to PDHs to renewals. Everything can be done virtually. And the downside to that is you miss the face-to-face communication, which I think I can attest to, and everyone here for being here today. As opposed, we've missed out on an entire year being here. So much more is accomplished here in person than virtually. I think we've all learned that lesson. It's valuable. I hope, I can't speak for TAPS, but I certainly hope that they will continue to invite the board, its members, its administration for a seminar presentation for PDHs to, if nothing else, just answer questions. Here's where we are. Here's what we're working on. Where do you want to go with this? How can we help you? Extend, a handshake to the registrants and let them know that we're here. We're one of them. What can we do to help? I had many members from the TAPS conference after it was finished, just come up and say, "Hey, thank you. It's great to see a face." And so I hope that, and I feel confident that we will be, extended the opportunity to continue that. Certainly hope that the administration will continue to participate. I think it was a great success. So, Tim, any thoughts? You were there, Jackie. Certainly want to hear from you as well.
No, I agree.
Well said.
I've been a proponent of it since we started. It's been very
Just to add on one thing I missed, one of the most valuable times during the TAPS conference, I think, is TAPS also puts on a seminar for kind of training towards the test, so to speak. They give on educational opportunities to learn about items that are probably going to be on the exams. Most of them are young and upcoming future licensees, we certainly hope. And Tim and I and Jackie take the opportunity to ask for 5 minutes of their time during their course to introduce ourselves. Because like I said before, there's no opportunity for them to meet the people that are going to actually review their applications and hopefully someday sign that certificate. So I personally really enjoy that opportunity. Again, I hope TAPS allows us to continue with that. Jackie, any thoughts? You good? So that's my point of view. I'd certainly like to hear from y'all as well.
It was great, and like I said, we really appreciate the opportunity to be there. We're thankful for the invitation, and I don't know if I can say this for Assistant Commissioner Martin, but I can say that it was a nice warm up, and I really liked the fact that there was 300 people that I couldn't see, and they were online. It made it a lot easier to speak to the crowd.
Certainly. I don't know that you'll get that luxury next year. I thought hopefully we'll be back in full staff next year. But
I hope so too. It's there's something about a full room that just makes sense. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that. The next was the NCSS Southern Zone meeting attendance. Is there anything you would like to say about that, Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to defer to Tim on that one.
Okay.
Well, currently, as we speak, the Northeast Zone is doing their meeting virtual, and I just got an email said they were struggling. But I think that I was very fortunate to conduct the meeting, and from the comments that we got, it went very smooth. And we now have a new Southern Zone Vice President, Andy Soutwell from North Carolina. We have a new Assistant Southern Zone Vice President, which is Bobby Bahi from Texas. So the Southern Zone will have new leadership after the August annual meeting in New Orleans. That'll be the last meeting that I will conduct for as Vice President, Southern Zone Vice President. So I appreciate that tenure. As I said earlier, I appreciate this board for providing me that avenue to become part of all of that. So our meeting went well. We continue to have both podcast and online seminars, and I would encourage you, Michael, to be as involved as you deem necessary, particularly on the MBA member board administrator standpoint. I think that in the long run, you will find that they have some tremendous programs, and it correlates and interrelates with everything here, both with your surveyors board and your architect engineers board. Miss Erica, they have law enforcement, which is our legal side of things, and they have very good programs for that, forms for that as well. So they offer a tremendous amount of things. While we're speaking to that, we have just recently, because of some of the restrictions being lifted in New Orleans, there will now be 3 members from this board allowed to go. Of course, I'll be there, but I won't be on the board, this board. But so three people from this board can go, and 3 people from the engineers board can go as well. So and those everyone's paid for by NCEES, all their travel, every expenses and everything. So it's a wonderful venue, and there's a tremendous amount of information and things to learn. Now, some of the forums that are conducted will be conducted beforehand. Engineers, surveyors, MBAs, and law enforcement, they'll be conducted beforehand. So I encourage you to check your emails, and if not, I can get you that information, or you can get it from NCEES staff. But there's some valuable information there. You would be amazed of problems and situations that we discuss here in this room, how they're being discussed in Seattle, Washington, or Anchorage, Alaska, or Honolulu, Hawaii, or wherever. Problems to our profession, technical professions such as engineers and surveyors, are not specifically unique to your demographic location. So I do encourage you to reach out to those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langfeld. And I did attend that virtual meeting that you led. You did a fantastic job. I find that those meetings are very educational for me, as I am only just barely a year into my learning about all of these processes. So thank you for your leadership in that. And it's always, like I said earlier, you're a fountain of knowledge and an institution unto yourself. So when you lead discussions, I think people really tune in, myself included, and take heart to what you're talking about. We did also receive the information from the NCEES about registration for attendance to the New Orleans conference. I can't remember the deadline for getting that in. I would like to propose, though, that, and I will make the same proposal to the engineers, that one of the 3 spots go to a staff member. I'm thinking myself and program attorney Maria Bush, that we might be able to attend that conference as well. So I'm going to make that same proposal to the engineers, but with the approval of the board, would like to make that request so that I could include Maria as the attendee for the land surveyors board, and I'll put myself on the engineers board.
Yep, absolutely. I'll agree with that one. I don't think there's any issues there. Yeah, we encourage that. Absolutely.
Great. That's it for the director's
Well,
report.
one further thing,
Sorry.
if I may, is we had discussed, I'd sent you an email about the emeritus status for NCEES, In order for me to continue some of the things that I'm doing, once my term is up at the end of June this year, the board is the only one that can request that I obtain emeritus status with NCEES, and I would respectfully request that be done if it's the board's pleasure.
It
Again, I'm
certainly is.
respectful making that request,
I
but
can speak on that behalf.
that
that it
needs
would
to be sent in early July if that's the case because of committee selections and so forth for next year.
Unless I hear otherwise, I think this board is making the request to have that taken care of.
Very good. I'll make sure to get that paperwork in.
Thank you. Please do.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Lingerfeld, for
much.
bringing that up.
If I could add just one more point, and I'll make it brief. The importance that I've learned of the NCES, quite honestly, before I started on this board, it was just another entity that really I didn't have to be involved with. But under Tim's guidance, he has certainly welcomed me in, and I personally have enjoyed working with NCES. Now that I'm on one of the committees, a little more interactive with it, but the value by far are these meetings, Southern Zone meetings, the national meetings, the face-to-face. Like Tim said, the other boards are having the same struggles we're having. It's important. It really is important that we remain active. We're one of the few independent surveying boards there. Most are combined PELS. And what really amazed me was by far surveyors are the minority, both on the NCS boards there, but also in terms of just general numbers. PEs to LSs, there's just no comparison in terms of numbers. But the activity of the surveyors and the passion that the surveyors have is remarkable. When you look at the numbers, they shouldn't be there, but they are, and they're there in force. Oftentimes, more often in the short time I've been involved, the president of NCS is a surveyor or a dual licensee. Again, you look at the numbers, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So I really admire the organization, what they stand for. I really want to encourage Kevin, certainly, and Mr. Clark, the future board member here, to be involved, be active, embrace the opportunities, get to know the other people from the other states. It's a wonderful asset to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, how does Texas handle this? Hey, how does North Carolina handle this? Hey, here's the situation I'm in. Have you ever been confronted with this? And to hear kind of an outside independent voice say, yeah, this is what we've done before and this is what worked for us. And to be able to kind of compile that information and try to improve the betterment of the profession with that information is just invaluable. So I really want to encourage here that the administration here stay and remain active. The members here, both existing and future, remain active and contribute as best they can. So just want to get that out.
I have already taken advantage of the other states and
Excellent.
having meeting people virtually thus far.
Yep.
It's been another great learning opportunity for me as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And on the heels of what the chairman said, the current board makeup is 6 out of 8 NCAA board or surveyors or dual. And the new board with my replacement and another gentleman that'll be replaced will have the same ratio, 6 out of 8 surveyors versus engineers.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is. But as Jay said, in my tenure, the surveyors lead the charge.
Amazing. Mr. Director, if I could, I see we're going to transition into old business. Assuming there's nothing else further on your director's report, could I ask for a 10-minute recess?
I think that's fair. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We'll break for 10 minutes and return at 10:25. Hello, everybody. The recess is over, and let's see. Okay, our recording has begun again. At this point in time, we are, with the chairman's approval, we're going to hear from Mr. Hemmert. Yes, Mr. Kermit Hemmert, who is on the line with us. Mr. Hemmert has a situation where he is looking for clarification. This involves drone work. Mr. Hemmert did send us in an email, which I could get to you, but I would like to, if Mr. Chairman, if you're okay with it, allow Mr. Hemmert to articulate his situation in which he's seeking guidance.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Hemmert, first of all, welcome, and thank you for being on the phone and holding with us. Your patience is appreciated. I certainly asked for some leeway in the agenda, and once I found out that you had a question for us, I asked that we immediately put you to the front of the line here as quick as we could. So welcome. Certainly want to address any questions you have, hopefully answer those as best we can. If we can't come up with an answer for you today, I can promise you that I will research it and get you an answer as quick as I can. So with that being said, Mr. Hemmert, I'll give the microphone to you.
First of all, can the board hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's thank the board for their time. I know that everyone's busy, but I am glad to see that we're returning to some kind of normalcy. If you'd like, I'd like to explain the background of my question and then seek the board's advice if we're ready for that.
Yes, go right ahead.
I have a small construction business. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Tennessee, and then I've also been working towards my my GC license as well. And part of that, my business plan was to invite some new technology, and I've been spending quite a bit of time on drone verification and then practicing that art. And it is quite a bit of an art. I just kind of did the basic assessment of my own home property lines just to see where it was, and then compared it to what's on the county side. And then I had a couple neighbors who watched what I was doing. They asked some questions after I was done, and I kind of explained what I was doing just to get better at this. And then they had a similar, kind of question. They just wanted to know where their property was and their fence was on the right spot, kind of stuff. And so they asked, "Hey, look, could you do it for me? And I'd be glad to compensate you in some kind of, manner." I've been working through the licensure for GC. I know there's some requirements for licensure for a surveyor. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. In my mind, this was verification of a position and not necessarily survey data, but I did want to, before engaging in any kind of business activity, speak to the board, gain their insight, and what their perspective was on it.
Okay, thank you. Just real quick, my quick thoughts. There was a couple of things that threw red flags up on me, and I do want to clarify a few things. If I understood you correctly, you are a licensed PE. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and again, just to clarify, you're not currently licensed as a land surveyor.
Correct.
Okay, all right, gotcha. The things that threw up red flags for me were the mention of property lines. That is first and foremost the responsibility of the professional land surveyor, and it's only land surveyors that can determine location of property lines. And so as a PE, professionally, you are not licensed to perform that service, whether you're compensated for it or not. So I would strongly caution you on that. If I understood correctly, you were doing it first for yourself, using new technology of the drones, and then you had some involvement with the neighbors asking if you could do it for them as well. Again, if I just understood you correctly, you were attempting to use that technology for the determination of the location of property lines for both yourself and for your neighbors, and we're inquiring if that's an okay practice. Is that what you're saying?
Well, for clarity, I've only executed the practice on my own personal property. In my mind, this isn't an assessment of what a surveyor does, a licensed surveyor. This is just verification against what the county already has on record. So, the same technology that, and again, I'm not the expert, but my understanding is the same technology that allows us to get precise details is resident with what I'm using now, and just verifying position, and then give that information to the homeowner, and then they can look up the county records and understand if that's a conflict.
Well, unfortunately, I think the misconception will be there, though, that the landowner will believe that what you're providing is a survey and a legal document, even though you may have disclaimers on it. Sir?
Well, I can specify that within the contract, can I?
Oh, you can, but that still doesn't change. From our experience, I think we can say that whatever, it doesn't matter what's in the contract, they're still going to think they're getting a survey.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I understand what you're saying, sir. I just was, and again, I don't want to, argue with the board. You guys are the experts. Just, I'm giving them information. They would still, if they believed there was a conflict with what the county requires and they wanted to go legal route, they would still have to hire a surveyor. This would just give them, at a much discounted price, confirmation as to whether it's worth spending the additional money to get the legal stamped survey of what their property lines are.
Mr. Hemert, if I may, this is Tim Lingerfelt. The first statement I would like to make to you is that the first document that you addressed is a document that is produced either by basically by the state of Tennessee for the property assessors. What they do is they take an orthographic photo and they take the mapping that they have in their particular county and superimpose that on that orthographic photo. Okay, now, the most important thing that I can tell you at this point is the orthographic photo is based on Tennessee state plane coordinates to survey accuracy. However, the property lines that are superimposed are not. They're based on whatever that particular county in the state has drawn them to place them on that map. And they also have on that map a disclaimer that says that those property lines are not accurate on there. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a drone and using whatever level of GPS that you use and taking a similar photo and trying to match based on, say, a fence line or something of that nature, what the property configuration that you have is. Well, that within itself is all well and good. However, when you purport that to be a property boundary, whether it has bearings or distances on it or not, and you do it via for financial gain, whether it's $1 or what, then it's my opinion that you're violating the rules of this particular board and this particular profession. So the thing I want to stress to you is there are so many factors involved in this process. For example, I don't know if you're using survey grade GPS to do what you're doing with, because the public in general, in dealing with GPS, they have it on their telephone. Numbers are numbers. They think those numbers are real, they're exact, but they can't replicate them because the location of that particular type of GPS may only be within 20 or 30 feet. And you go back tomorrow and you do the same thing, it's the same situation. It's numbers, but you still believe those numbers are right. So, again, going back to my point, you're working from an inexact piece of information. You're trying to make that piece of information exact, which we here on the board all wish that information was much more exact than what it is. But the cost and the effort to get it to that point is quite enormous. And what I can tell you, for example, is if the state of Tennessee operated like the state of North Carolina on a state plane coordinate system, then the mapping that you would see on a county by county basis where state plane coordinates had been placed on property boundaries would be exceptionally accurate. But that's not how the state of Tennessee and the property assessors react to doing their work. So as far as I'm concerned, the moral of the story is you're trying to do boundary work and you're doing it for financial gain, and that's against our rules.
Okay, so I accept that. Just out of curiosity, like on construction work, many contractors use drones to verify positions for elevation and whatnot. Is that also not allowed? I mean, it's just kind of a separate subject. I'm just saying, like, the drone we have is RTK enabled. We use NTRIP or we use the remote MLED RS2 system. It's within plus or minus 1.5 centimeters horizontally, plus or minus 2 centimeters vertically. It's a very precise tool. We've been verifying it. I'm not going to do anything illegal by any means, but I'm just saying, certainly for construction, there's an industry practice out there where drones are being more and more used on construction sites in which a GC is building a large structure, and the drone provides the same level of accuracy for elevations for pour on concrete or any of that other kind of stuff. And I guess just my perspective, any kind of positional data requires a licensed surveyor?
No, that's not correct. There's two things I do want to address. Number one, the drone is just the tool. So that's really not what's in question. Whether you're using a drone, a GPS, a total station, regardless of the tool, that's really not the issue here. The issue is any kind of resemblance of boundary. That is where the surveying rules and regulations will kick in. So, if you're, just for example here, contractor wants to, do construction progress, and he maps out, the footings, the foundation as the steel goes up, et cetera, and he wants to know, where those are. That's fine. No issues there whatsoever. We have no purview or regulations over that. However, if they were to show the same example and give dimensions to, the slab is 10 foot from the property line, that's where surveying comes in. It's when the boundary issues of a property are positionally located or shown or represented. That's when it's considered surveying. Does that help clarify?
Totally, sir. So I can report position. I just can't compare it against any kind of survey or licensing requirements.
Boundaries. You cannot show, unless you're a licensed surveyor, positional information related to the boundaries of a property.
Got it, sir. Totally understand.
Okay. Jackie? You good? Okay.
Well.
All right. Any other questions? Tim?
Hey, really, appreciate it for the board. And again, I hope you can take my Q&A as any kind of challenge of the board. I want to be professional and upfront, but I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you very much.
Hey, first, I do want to commend you for calling in and asking the question. Most people are a little bit hesitant and just go out there and cross their fingers, hope they don't get caught. So kudos to you, your professionalism there to come to us and ask the question, whether it is or isn't the answer you wanted to hear. But excellent for coming forward and asking the question. We certainly want to encourage you and anyone else to do the same.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick,
Yes, sir, Mike.
I would also like to encourage Mr. Hemmert to continue, should he have further questions, to continue to be in contact with board staff here at the department, and we will do whatever we can to help him out through the process.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. That was a good phone call there. That was interesting. I enjoy those. Okay. All right. So moving on, now that we're back on, we're on to old business. And we were going to, the first item there was to continue discussion on how to determine BOE PDH credits. Was there a particular topic on that we wanted to start addressing? Is there a specific... I didn't know what the exact point was that we were going to go after there.
No, sir. This is just this was contingent upon previous discussions, and in my recollection of it, it was asked that just not be lost sight of. So again, this is one of those things that is just going to kind of stay on old business until we pick it up, until there's further elaboration. At this point in time, if you don't have anything new to discuss about it, I don't either. I just didn't want to lose sight of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Timothy?
Just a brief comment. At the TAPS convention, we were asked this question of how a licensee is to get credit for attending a Board of Examiners meeting, and it's not in person. That was the question. In other words, a virtual meeting. If I'm just John Doe surveyor, which will be in a couple of weeks, how do I get credit for attending a board meeting and I'm virtual? Obviously, in my mind, if I'm virtual, I'm on that screen right there.
Yeah.
So that tells me that I'm there. So we need to have some means to address that, because we said that a licensee could get up to an hour and a half of PDH credit from attending board meetings in person. So they're asking about the virtual version of that, and we really haven't given them an answer at this point. That's the reason for the question.
Yeah, so potentially those that are shown being online right there, if they're currently registrants and they're trying to get renewals, they could, assuming they stay the whole length of this board meeting, they could request the hour and a half PDH for attendance, and then obviously that right there is the verification that they were actually in attendance.
So if they were actually audited, they would say on May the 20th, 2021,
right,
I attended the Board of Examiners meeting, and I'm asking for an hour and a half credit when they send in their audit papers for review.
Yeah, that's correct. And
if they're audited, yeah.
And we could, moving forward, I think that the virtual aspect is going to play a part in our meetings. So when somebody does do that, we'll easily be able to pull up the video and verify attendance, obviously through their name being on the screen, and we can fast forward throughout and see if they disappear or if they don't show, if they're not there for the whole time. If they don't show up on the WebEx and they watch it after the fact, that is something I think that, have we, Caleb, asked Caleb Darnell if we had ever received anybody asking for credit in an instance like that? Okay.
So here's my question on, just to clarify that though, because attending the meeting, which is what those individuals are doing right now, but just viewing the meeting at a later date is something else.
Right.
So was the PDH being awarded for attendance?
Well, Caleb just said that we've never had anybody come in after the fact
Right.
and ask for that credit. So
It would be unusual. I mean, the only way we'd see is through an audit process. But
sure.
Yeah, but as I remember the motion, that's what the motion was for, attending the meeting.
I
So,
think, yeah.
but so be it virtual, they are attending.
Correct. So, and moving forward, we will now have this actual visual attendance sheet to look at.
So if I just clarify my point here, the attendee would be eligible for credit. The one that views this via YouTube or something 6 months from now would not be eligible for credit.
Right.
That's
because
the way I
we'd have no
understand.
way to verify it.
That is correct. Yeah. Okay.
Are those available on YouTube or some other sort? They are. Okay.
Yes, we post after every meeting. We post them to our YouTube channel, to the department's YouTube channel, and they're all available. You can actually get to them through the website or the landing page for this board. After we post it, it'll just say "watch," so you can go back and review these at any time.
Very good. Thank you, Tim, for helping on that.
So, Mr. Chairman, point of clarification:
Yes,
that is now taken care of. We can remove that from old business.
If so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right. With that, we'll move on to item number 2, the proposed rule and technical standard changes. This has been on a matter of discussion. I believe this is probably our 3rd meeting now. At our last meeting, I did ask the other board members to provide me with suggested changes to the technical standards as they exist now. Of course, we had previously requested and received from both the professional organization, TAPS, but also individual surveyors. We had reached out to surveyors across the state saying, look, now's the opportunity. If you have requested changes, modifications, additions, subtractions, blah, 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 submit them to us for our review. And they've done that. So outstanding job, especially by TAPS, to collate all their data together and submit the one document which we've had opportunities to review. I myself have had an opportunity to review not only those comments, but the individual comments, and then also go through the minimum standards with my own specific comments. And what I've asked the board members to do was to basically do the same, go through it themselves, red line, come up with some changes, review what the other surveyors have submitted, including from TAPS, and basically provide those to me personally. And what I'm proposing to do here is take those suggested changes and generate the PDF document that basically shows the strike-throughs or additions or subtractions or replacements into a PDF document, and then submit those to the board for record, first of all. And then what I'm going to ask the administration to do, as long as we're clear with legal and all that, is obtain that document from me and then distribute that to the professional society for their review and comment. So what I'm trying to really do here is really make the extra effort to, number one, be transparent with the suggested changes at this point, and really make an effort to say, look, here's your opportunity to comment. Yeah, I've been there before. We've asked you once already. Here's what we interpreted. Here's how we're proposing those changes. Here's another opportunity for it. And then ask them to, again, resubmit back to the board with their, no, you missed my point, or no, this is what we really wanted, or yeah, we're good. And then begin the formal process of submitting it for the rules changes. So I guess with that, without going into extensive discussion here today, getting into the intricacies of the suggested changes, because that could take a while, I'm going to ask administration if on the surface what I just said is kosher, if that path of submitting it for another review to TAPS, coming back with it, and then beginning the formal process of the rule changes, which, if I understand, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, allows for public comment. Okay, so that the formal process does allow for additional comments. So again, just in full transparency and trying to get as much communication as I can here. It seems like we're stretching out the process, but the process takes time. I think we all know that in general, a rules change is a year process. I think just in general, I think we can say that. Add on top of it everything we've all been through for the last year. Here we are. So that's where I want to go. I do want to just request off the cuff from legal, just on the surface blessings, if that's acceptable. And then I'm going to ask the board members if there's any particulars that they wanted to discuss on the suggested changes.
So yeah, that sounds good as far on our end. And I don't know if you all have gone through the rulemaking process via proposed rules or the rulemaking hearing route, but more recently with some direction from the legislator making hearings, and that affords the public even more opportunity to comment and be involved in the process. So there is ample opportunity for feedback, from the associations, licensees, and the public in general. So rest assured that we will have that throughout the process. And I'm happy to work with Michael on the associations once I receive a final draft from you all and make sure that we are all on the same page and moving forward. I think that makes it a smoother process. So happy to do that.
Great, thank you, Michael. I would just say you can expect from me then the current rules as they exist with my edits and modifications, and they're clearly noted on there. I'll submit that to you for distribution to TAPS for their review. We'll wait to get that back.
Great. I'll be on the lookout for it, and we'll start the process.
Excellent, thank you. Didn't want to throw it over. I mentioned I would ask the other members here if they have any particular items that they wanted to discuss.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna have to claim a senior moment here. I do have my markups, but I left them on my computer, so I'll have to get them to you here in the next day or two.
Quickly, yes, thank you.
I'll give you mine for what it's worth.
Okay. All right, was there anything particular you wanted to discuss while we're here, or just take it from face value?
I just would make one comment since I won't be back. I think the gorilla in the room in the standards is how we incorporate the GPS rule with the normal certifications. I think that they now need to be married because they're more in together because of such combination that so many surveyors are using one technology for part of the job, another technology for the other part of the job. Right. In the respect to that, I would also like to, and I mentioned in there, I'd like to see the possibility of the rural surveys, the 1 in 5,000, to go away, and maybe even slightly up the accuracy for the urban and suburban, because I think that now we're not. When we redid these the last time I think we finished them in 11. The last time, but we started him at about 4. We had to consider, because of going through government ops and the whole process, we had to consider the fact that somewhere in Tennessee, in a rural county, there was a surveyor that still had a transit and chain. I am not aware of that individual anymore in the state. And that's why we had to leave these accuracies low. But I'm certainly not purporting, increasing them to some crazy level either. But I think they need to be moved up. And if you look at other states, whether they be adjoining or wherever, I think you'll see the same thing that they have done in theirs. A good example may be Oklahoma, where the two are intertwined between what I would call standard practice items and GPS items. So that's just a couple of thoughts that I might pitch out there, because that seems to be an area that we need to sort of touch on.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I do recall several comments from TAPS and the other members that were addressing the same topic. So it is certainly something we need to address with. It is something that on my surveys I have to address as well. So we'll certainly take that into consideration. Jackie, did you have any specific thoughts that you wanted to address today?
No, not today.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, Michael, you can expect a document from me. Who did?
Sorry, I just have
Yes.
a quick question. Do you all have uniform rules that you're working off of with this, or just for my edification and knowledge? Or is it like the sister states, around that are moving towards this, that we're using their language and kind of adopting it, or is it a broader national move? Or how does
obviously we
usually
have the
work?
rules that are in place today.
Mhm.
Obviously, oftentimes, me personally, I think Tim as well, Jackie, I'm sure, will refer to adjoining states, just because in general, probably 95% of the rules that we apply are very similar, if not almost exact, to the adjoining states as well. And surveying is an art and a science that is regional. Even within the state, it's different on the west than it is on the east. Just little minor tweaks. But for the most part, in general, by far the majority of the information is if not the same, then extremely similar. And the profession itself, in order to evolve, is while slow, one state may be progressively ahead of another in a certain facet, and it's great to have. This is where NCES comes in as a great example, to be able to have the opportunity to discuss. Hey, I saw you made a change here. How's that working? What are the pitfalls? How can we incorporate that into our state for the betterment of the surveyors and the protection of the public?
That's very helpful. Thanks. I just asked because that's a lot of the questions we get as we move the formal process of the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office and the legislative approval. That's a good selling point for us, that we are moving towards reciprocity for licensure, and that it's making it easier. So that's great to hear.
Great point. Okay, move on to the next item here. If there's no other further discussion on it. In fact, I think we may have addressed this already. The PDH for license renewal in regard to COVID-19. I think we discussed that earlier. Was there anything further?
No, that's correct. I had placed this on here just to remind you all that under
Yep.
current executive orders, you had till the end of the month to.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, this is the point where we move on to new business. Any new items that we want to bring up for discussion? Michael, did you have anything offhand before I jump onto one here?
Nothing other than what is currently on the agenda.
Okay, all right. One item that was brought to my attention, again, this is strictly for discussion purposes only. There'll be no decisions made here. Perhaps further discussion at later meetings. It could be a sensitive topic for some surveyors. I understand there's a lot of passion out there towards this. Is the potential for the elimination of the Tennessee state specific exam, better known as the 2-hour exam, which in recent years Tennessee has been more progressive about in terms of moving it to a computer-based testing. We're one of the few states that has been progressive in that facet to making it a computer exam. Most states are still, show up in person, oftentimes at the board office itself. Here's a paper exam, and best of luck. I'll see you in 2 hours. But Tennessee and a few other specific states have really embraced the computer-based technology. And with what's going on today, I think has been a positive, which may have been a roadblock for some other states not being able to administer a in-face test over the last year. I think Tennessee has been fortunate that has not really been much of a hindrance. But there is a movement about, and some states have already advanced with it, Kentucky being one of them specifically, about the elimination of the 2-hour exam specific to the state itself, and obviously in our case, Tennessee. And I just wanted to bring this up for discussion as it is becoming more of a national topic, quite honestly. As I mentioned before, at least one state has already eliminated it. There's others. New Jersey, I believe.
They did, and then they recanted and brought it
They
back.
brought it back. Okay,
Yeah, they only
interesting.
did for about 5 months.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. But it is worthy of discussion. I think personally there are some positives to it. There certainly could be some negatives to it as well. But again, we as a profession are moving more and more towards reciprocity in other states, the ability to gain licensure in other states. NCES is certainly a hot topic there for discussion. And so I wanted to bring this up and just kind of lay it out on the table to see what thoughts were of the other board members here about, whether is it on the surface a good idea, bad idea, some positives, negatives, possible hurdles in front of us if we were to decide to go forward with this, and certainly, what are the advantages, both to the public and to the surveyor themselves, and even extend that to what advantages does it forward the administration here. So with that being said, I'll kind of open the floor up. Other board members here, if you want to care to discuss it, initial thoughts on the idea, and to see if it's something that maybe we want to look into further. Jackie, any thoughts on that?
It's something I think we definitely need to look into further, and I need to give it some thought.
It ages me to say that I'm old school now. I guess I've been around long enough. I can start to say that. I don't know. Some of the older surveyors will probably roll their eyes at me, but back in the day, which I include myself in, you could, if you timed it right, take all 3 exams on the same day, paper administered. You had to come up here and do the grind for over 2 days. And obviously, as we've progressed through the years, the FS, the PS, all being electronic, you don't need to take any more paper pencil. For a while there, we held steadfast at keeping the Tennessee exam paper and pencil, but even still, we've moved on past that. To the point, like I said earlier, you can take all 3 exams and never set foot in a testing facility other than the electronic one. There's no more paper and pencil. So I think the initial, this is just my view from 10 yards out, the initial thoughts, especially from the quote old timer surveyors, are going to be, oh heck no, by golly, I went through it, they got to go through it, it's part of the process. And I understand that, and a part of me feels the same way. It really does. But things change, and in today's society, with the ability of electronic testing, the advancement of licensure through multiple states, and just the ability to allow that, and in my view, to really put the capital P on professionalism in surveying, to where it is the responsibility of the registrant to know the rules and regulations of the state that they survey in. Whether it is shown by 2-hour examination, and then they're allowed to practice in that state, or whether it's, look, you're the professional, you're responsible for it. Whether you take the exam or not to gain your license, that doesn't eliminate any responsibility on your part for knowing those rules and applying those rules to the surveys you produce. So there's some valid arguments both ways. I think certainly worthy of discussion. Tim, I think you're probably chomping at the bit on this one. I'll give you your opportunity here.
Let me get on my soapbox.
That too.
That's fine. Just so I don't fall off. One thing I would say, there's 2 valuable considerations in this proposal. One is it does not change the required experience. All the other things that are there, it would not change that. The second thing is it's paramount, and that's where Miss Maria comes in. It's paramount to determine. It's my opinion that we can do it under our current rules, but it's paramount that legal determine whether or not there is any kind of change that's necessary in order to do this. That's the most 2 valuable considerations in this equation in my mind. Now, having said that, and having saw Kentucky do it over the last, I think it's 3 to 4 years now, I've spoken with the Kentucky board, their MBA, Ed Manning, who just retired, by the way, 2 weeks ago, and they have not seen any increase in complaints. One thing that they do is they require the applicant, obviously, to meet the experience, to have passed the PS exam, and they require, it's a very brief application with a small fee, and they require an affidavit from that applicant that says that they have read their rules and statutes or laws. So it's a very minimal thing, and it goes right in tune with what you were saying, Mr. Chairman, about surveyors being professionals and doing what we're supposed to do wherever it is we're doing it and however it is we're doing. So I think that Kentucky was very progressive. One thing I can say is NCEES is currently working on doing some divisionalization potentially for the PS examination, and in doing that, it will kind of change the landscape of the PS, which in my mind will somewhat strengthen it for have better mobility from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So it seems only logical to me that we investigate and potentially follow the same path that Kentucky has followed. First off, if you think about it, not that the dollar is driving the ship. The first thing I'm going to say is it would expedite the individual becoming licensed in the state of Tennessee. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, it would cost them less money to do so. So I think those are 2 valuable things based on the way the current administration views things and so forth. Thirdly, it would be a huge cost savings for this board, because if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a while since I've heard the number, but we spend in excess of $500 and some per state-specific examination through PSI to administer. Now, I think that some of that cost is offset by the applicant's fee that they pay for the exam, but there's still a significant cost to this board, and I want that to be as far to the bottom in consideration of this matter as it possibly can be, but it is a fact. It is a fact. So I hope that in the future the board will look at this. And hopefully Ms. Maria can give good guidance as to whichever direction that may or may not go. And simply consider it, because as all of you know, we have an aging profession. Our numbers are low, and anything that we can do to increase those numbers, yet the paramount thing is to protect the public. We got to do, if we can do those hand in hand, we have done something very, very good for the state of Tennessee. Make sure that protecting the public is the number one thing. So that's my soapbox on this. I think it's very positive. I think it shows very good progression on this board's part, because we've already made a lot of efforts in decoupling the examinations with the education and the experience. So we are doing everything that we have the ability to do, short of this, to try to help young people get licensed and move forward, and to ease comedy a little bit. I will mention one other thing in light of this. It kind of goes hand in hand. I think that at some point in the future, it would be good to consider encouraging existing workers for surveyors that have made a decision to be in that career path and have been working for a firm for a while, not to wait until it's time to take the FS exam because the rule says whatever. Go ahead and take that exam, and then I would hope that the board, because I think the rules allow, I would hope that the board then would look at some of that experience prior to passing that FS exam in consideration to shorten the overall length of time it takes for that individual, depending on what their path is, to get to licensure, which by eliminating the state-specific exam, that continues to help that shortened path. And, I don't think that we're in a desperation mode, but I think we're in a mode of being able to reach out and embrace those that have the potential to become a licensee and help them in every way that we can to try to further the numbers and better the profession.
Yeah, well said, Tim, and I tend to agree with most everything you said there, absolutely. And we do want to encourage those that have futures as professional surveyors to get that FS under the way, get that clock taken, get those applications in. We want to expedite it as best we can. Along those lines, and in similar fashion, not to change the topic, but just kind of add to it, the potential for the application process. Again, other states, in fact, I think probably most states, utilize the NCES record, which is essentially a central database of registrants that holds their academic record, their experience record, the references, all that good stuff, all in one place, such that you choose a state to apply to. You don't have to go through the whole application process, filling all that information out each time. Rather, you just say, hey, look, I've got it on record at NCES. They transfer it electronically over to the board for the application. Probably 95% of the application is done right there. I see some nodding heads. I'll bet you Morgan virtually is probably nodding her head. It would eliminate a lot of the effort administratively in terms of the processing of the application. Again, expediting those applications and getting them into the process of getting those tests taken as best we can. That one I really think has some encouraging positive aspects to it that I'd really like to address here on the board. Obviously, we need to work with the administration to see logistically how we can work that out, what the benefits are. Obviously, legally, we want to make sure in the rules that we can do that. And then probably some communication with some adjoining states that already have that in process, which again, I think are the majority. So I think that's something we definitely want to look at.
Just going back to the Tennessee state specific exam, I just had a question, and I want to analyze, and look, compare the statute and the rule and that kind of thing. But I see in the statute that there's language referencing the Tennessee state jurisdictional examination.
Same thing.
Oh, they're the same thing. Because in the rule, it's, the Tennessee state specific exam. Okay, that's helpful because I didn't know if
We sort of
Missing
bounce
something.
around the acronym on that.
Okay. That's great to
we
know,
are,
though.
and I apologize.
No, not at all.
Because we'll talk an acronym, and we may have used that one for a while, and we used something else before.
It's good to know they're the same. So
Yeah.
I will look at that and then follow up next meeting.
I had a question. Are the exams administered? Is there a state section, and a federal or a national section, or so it's all at one time? You take it all at one time.
No.
Oh, I see. So you can just take one and then the other.
It's a combination of experience and education in a process. You'll take one exam, gather more experience, take the next exam, and then if you qualify for each level along the way. So it's a progression of experience and education to qualify, and then obviously you got to pass the test. So, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, on the NCSS record,
Yes, sir.
the one word that I would stress would be current. Because I know in the past we have had records submitted for applications and they were not current.
Yep.
So I think that's a very key component if the board would decide to utilize the NCSS record. But I think it really helps with mobility and helps the applicant. For if you take a young surveyor in Tennessee and they do the NCSS record, they become licensed. A couple of years down the road, they want to go to Arkansas or wherever and get licensed. They're already set up, ready to go. So I think we do the applicant a great service by utilizing that, but it clearly plays hand in hand with the elimination of the Tennessee jurisdictional exam for Miss Maria.
And we currently use NCSS records for their applications, so we could take a look at that. And in terms of what's current, I know there's a limitation. We won't accept records that haven't been updated in X amount of years. I don't want to say the number off the top of my head, but rather look it up. But we can utilize that for discussion purposes.
And it is the responsibility of each licensee to maintain that record with NCES on an annual basis. I don't know. I know certainly to keep it up to date, there's an annual fee involved. Or did they eliminate that?
They have a preliminary fee, and
Okay.
then you have a fee when you submit. to
When
the
you
board.
submit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But again, that's strictly on each licensee. But I know that on many applications that we get through to review, I'll see an NCS record included, which is very helpful.
It shortens our review time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a standard format. You know where to look and what you're looking for specifically. And to go down the line. So it's an advantage to us as reviewers as well. But I think administratively, it might be a great advantage if we could certainly look at making that the standard process towards the application. So
And one thing I might mention, both on the engineering record and the surveying record, when you apply for that record, they actually have a professional in your field review that record to make sure that they feel that it's complete before NCSS says you're good to go and now you can send it out. So it's actually looked at by a set of professional eyes before it ever goes out to a jurisdictional board.
good point. All right. If there's no other discussion on that, we're still under new items. If there's something new business, any other items we want to address for discussion here today, now would be the opportunity. Otherwise, I think we're getting towards the end of the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. Okay, so another item to bring up under new business, again, just for discussion, under the topic of continuing education. The current process right now, and we've touched on it today with some earlier items, was to get vendors' approval through the board of the course that they're offering. And then obviously, the applicant takes the course and has to keep a record of it. And then should they get audited, have to show proof of the course, the content, things like that. Another item for discussion in relation to that would be essentially, stopping that whole process and leaving it up to the registrant themselves. Again, kind of putting the capital P in front of professional here and saying, look, why does the board have to pre-approve a course for you, the professional, to take and be acceptable in the profession as a continuing education. Rather, it would put the burden, really where it falls anyway, on the professional themselves to go out and say, hey, here's one for basket weaving. No, that isn't professional in my profession. That's not going to qualify. But here's one on, strengthening boundary law or topics that are, very of interest. Number one, it's of interest to them. It doesn't have to go through the pre-approval PDS process, but rather it puts the burden on the professional to say, I recognize what is a professional correspondence course that would be acceptable in my profession. I'm going to take that and then obviously keep record of it, and should they get audited, come forward with it. So it takes a lot of the forward work. Again, takes a lot of burden off administration. Again, you see kind of some of the similarities here, and puts the burden back on the registrant where it should be. Again, kind of like a skipping record. A lot of other states are already doing this. A lot of other professions that require PDHs are already doing this. And again, it's upon us as collectively as surveyors to broaden our professionalism, to put that capital P in the front, and to show that, look, I'm responsible professional surveyor here. I can handle what is and what isn't a professional course that I should be taking, and allow me to find the courses of interest, to qualify for it. So I wanted to throw that out on the table, see if there's further discussion on it. Again, I kind of feel that it might be some pushback from the old schoolers who say, by golly, it's this way. It's always been this way. I understand that. I get that. But really, we need to really emphasize, if we're going to be professional surveyors with a PLS stamp and signature, that we emphasize that, and we act and we behave and we go through the rules that we should as professionals. So with that, I'll put it out on the table and see if there's further discussion. Today, again, we're not going to make any kind of decisions of any kind, just for broad discussion.
On the facts, I think it's a good idea. Still have a little bit of concern that you're going to have the guys out there that are going to take a course that in their mind they think is an acceptable course, and once it gets here, then we may have a different opinion. And so where does that leave them in the process of being able to stay current with their continuing PDHs?
Well, actually, my concern is I don't want to entrap a licensee relative to the direction you're going there. But just as we went from a 100% audit, several years back, we had a 100%. Every surveyor submitted their continuing education, and someone on staff went through that continuing education to make sure that they had the proper amount of hours for that renewal period. Well, just as we went away from that to an audit, it seems logical to me that we go away from the continuing education, pre-approval, number on the course. But the problem there is, and this has to go to Michael for thought, is how would staff handle the audit when that 10%, when you had 100 audits, if it's just to pick a number, if you had 100 audits come in, how would, I'm going to use Caleb as an example, how would Caleb review those to determine whether or not those are proper surveying courses for surveyor A who's being audited? To me, that's the problem. But as the chairman indicated, other states do different things. For example, in North Carolina, they approve vendors, and those vendors pay a fee. And whatever course that vendor gives is approved. Okay? I suggested that a few years back and got an ugly face because it had the word fee with it. And I understand administration didn't want to increase fees or whatever, but this being a third-party vendor, if the board would approve that third-party vendor with the fee, that basically pays for the board approving that, and then you don't have to have the numbers. You just have the vendor. You've got a list of, let's say, 25 vendors that are approved by the Tennessee State Board to give surveying courses. Okay, for example, TAPS could be one of them. McKissick was here earlier, Red Vector, Half Moon, all the ones that we normally know, they could be on that list. And by approving them on that list, whether we had a fee or we didn't, we had a list. to me, that helps answer how Caleb could then review those 100 audits. He could look down through there and say, yep, all of these vendors are on here. So evidently their courses are good because the board has approved those vendors. Whereas if it's the other way around, we don't approve anything, then how does he know? He doesn't. So then he has to take his 100 audits and disseminate them among the board, and the board's got to thumb through them and look at them to decide, well, now we've created more work. We sort of simplified something but made more work out of it. So the point I'm getting to is so many other states do vendor approval as opposed to course approval. And I'd like you all to think about that. And that's why that's the only reason to bring it up. Think about it as a possibility, because obviously our system of the advisory committee, and no disrespect to any member that's been on it, or currently on it, but our advisory system is not working as we intended it to work. Because all surveyors are super busy. Somebody sends you a box of 25 courses. Guess what? You're not going to start working on them tonight. You're going to work on them when you can get to them. Well, timing is always very important to vendors, just as it is to the surveyor reviewing them. So, we've tried to do everything we can to trim that timeline so that they get a quicker response, to be more professional on the staff part. So it's just my thought that we need to look at that. The advisory committee, they serve their purpose, but we wrestled with this several years ago. We tried to get them continuing education credits for doing volunteer work. That went by the wayside. The director at that point in time said, not no, but no way. That just takes away from their exuberance about doing that volunteer job when they get that box of 25 courses. So I'm just trying to look at a more common method that's utilized by other jurisdictions that is working. And if it's working, let's don't try to fix it. Let's see if we can maybe get on that wagon as well. So that's my soapbox on that.
Thank you, sir. I think that moving forward, we can definitely prepare. We can take a look at our current process and definitely prepare some proposed changes to that process should this become the way we operate. And we'll be ready to discuss that at the next available opportunity with the members of the board, so that you all can understand how that. You already know how it'll affect us, but this would be how we would put the plan in order to come back and say this is how we'll deal with that moving forward.
Or group of vendors out there that's common to. Kevin, you had a point.
I was just going to ask what happens in the event. Evaluates that to what depth? I mean, do you force up and go through heading to that extent?
Yeah, no. Currently, if we get questions like that, get a course that wasn't pre-approved, but now they're seeking approval for it, or if there's a question along the way, we generally get the vendor's application, which includes, course content, the interaction content, the resume of the instructor.
Okay.
And so we're provided with ample material to get, quality feel for the content that's being presented. So, yeah, there is a process there. Okay, excellent points there, and certainly worthy of future discussion. I imagine we'll see these on future agendas for perhaps some action there. Okay, well, unless there's other items for new business or other items for general discussion, I think we're getting toward the end of the agenda here. All right, not hearing anything, I'll certainly entertain a motion. Oh, wait, we do have to discuss PDHs for this board meeting for attendance. We started right at 9 o'clock. It's about 11:20.
10-minute break. I say 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours.
2 hours solid. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous there.
That was the chairman's roll call vote.
That
by the
was
way.
saving you the effort.
I believe that's okay.
I think
and
we'll go with that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you would indulge me just briefly before adjournment, I would like to say to Mr. Lingerfelt that in my short time here, it's been an honor to work with you, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I hope that you maintain contact with this board. I'm sure that I'll be relying on you for some opinions and review type questions as I grow in this role. And I know that I think I speak for the entire staff here when we say it's been a great pleasure to have worked with you. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words. And I would be remiss as a professional if I didn't agree with what you asked, because I will help in any way, because that's my whole reason for ever being here from the start.
Just as one final motion here, I am going to ask for adjournment here. I think over the years, Timothy has certainly had the opportunity to sit in this chair as chairman and done an outstanding job. I think I will give him the opportunity, if he would afford it, one last time to set the motion for adjournment and pound the gavel, and we'll be on our way.
I move that we adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, gentlemen.